So how you see what you see is far more important than what you see, because you can see things in many different countries. You can see lions in many different parks, as an example. But how you view those, those charismatic animals, it makes all the difference.
All right, welcome to the Adventure Life Travel Show, where we explore how travel educates us, inspires us, and changes us in ways we never expect. I'm Jason Maynard, and each episode we talk with the people who make adventure travel come alive. From lodge owners and expedition leaders on the ground to our own Adventure Life trip planners who help travelers reach the world's most extraordinary places. Together we'll uncover the stories behind the journeys, the moments that connect us, challenge us, and remind us why we travel. Today, I am joined by Tyrone McKeith of Classic Zambia. He is at his home in Lusaka, Zambia. How are you, Ty?
Very good, Jason. Yeah, thanks very much for having me on.
Thanks for
Lusaka's
coming on.
nice and green at the moment, so we're enjoying a bit of rain, but nice
Excellent.
to chat. Yeah.
So you are one of the, what do you call them, co-directors, co-managers?
Yep. Co-founders. Yeah.
Co-founders of Classic Zambia. And just so our listeners have some idea, Zambia is a country in Africa. If you need to know where it is, I'm going to tell you to find a map. We have some behind us, but most of y'all are going to be listening. It is a fantastic safari destination, and unfortunately, it's sometimes overlooked. You don't get tons of visitors to Zambia. We should change that.
Amen.
You're nodding. I'm like going, come on, Ty, you got to say something.
No, you're right. Yeah, exactly. That's part of the allure. That's part of the reason to come, because there's nobody here. Yeah.
It is. It's one of the reasons I like to talk about Zambia. It's because you can go to other places and have good safari experiences, but you're going to fight for positioning, getting your vehicle around other vehicles to see the animals. That's not so much a problem at a lot of the parks in Zambia.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly the case. If I can, add in there one of the sort of little phrases I always find myself when I'm trying to explain what Zambia is to folk that may have not heard about it, and safari in general. People think, they all focus on what you're going to see. And I say, yeah, absolutely. It's important to do your research, speak to the Jasons of the world and figure out where you want to see what you want to see. But it is not about what you see. It's about how you see what you see. And you might not know that in the first instance, but the experience you have around viewing your wildlife in your camp, the size of camp, it's about so much more than a kind of singular thing. So how you see what you see is far more important than what you see, because you can see things in many different countries. You can see lions in many different parks, as an example. But how you view those, those charismatic animals, it makes all the difference. Yeah.
I love that. How you see things. That's a very good way to put it. And Zambia has pretty much everything you would want to see on safari in some way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. You have camps in 3 national parks, correct?
That's right. Yeah. Currently we do. Yeah. The Kafue National Park, the Lower Zambezi National Park, and the North Luangwa National Park. And those are the 3 sort of major wildlife areas here in Zambia. We've got a few different national parks elsewhere, but the 99% of folk coming to Zambia on safari will either be going to the Luangwa Valley, the Zambezi Valley, or the Kafue National Park. Yeah. So we're very lucky to have a bit of a footprint across those 3 areas. Yeah.
Yeah, those are 3 great areas. The other areas are they're rarely visited, very difficult to get to. Logistics are crazy. But let's dive in and let's talk about. Let's go west to east. Let's start with Kafue.
Yep.
Because I think that is where you yourself started out.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, Kafue is not a small park, correct? It's pretty good size.
It's absolutely massive. Yeah. It's over 20,000 square kilometers. It's like a 1.25 Connecticut or yeah, size of the country of Belgium, pretty much. It's huge.
It's big.
Um, yeah, I think like the fifth largest park in the world, unfenced, vast wilderness. Yeah, it's a special place. Yeah.
I want to start at the top because there's something kind of almost unique. The Busanga Plains.
Hmm.
My understanding is it's a floodplain. Is that
Yep,
right? Can
that's
you
right.
tell me
Yeah.
about how this works?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, so as I said, the Kafui is massive, right? And so there are arguably 5 or 6 different kind of distinct ecologically different areas, in this park. So that's unusual because most parks and areas in Africa, it's kind of what you get. The Masai Mara is the plains, right? The Kruger typically is a sort of wooded environment, right? But the Kafui really is, yeah, I would say probably 5 different ecotypes. And you talk about the Busanga Plains, and that's one of the better known areas of the Kafui. Some people think it's its own park or its own thing. It is just one of the areas of Kafui, but it is well known because it's particularly unique. And as you said, it is a floodplain. It's a seasonally sort of inundated, and it's a big area. It's about 600 square kilometers of plains itself. And it's somewhat reminiscent of the Okavango Delta mixed with the plains of East Africa aesthetically. So you get red lechwe and sitatunga, these swamp adapted animals, mixing it with wildebeest and zebra and cheetah. And so you've got this really unique mix of wet adapted animals and dry adapted animals. And whilst that itself is very unique, it's very different to the rest of the Kafui, because those lechwe and the roan and sable and cheetah are not species that you're seeing in the rest of Zambia. So just one part of one park of our one country is phenomenally worth going to, unique in its own right. And you have to spend 3 or 4 nights there. So then you start to get an idea about the scale of Zambia, right? And the scale of just the Kafue National Park. Yes, it's a very special part, but there are, yeah, 4 or 5 other very unique different areas well worth combining with Busanga. Yeah.
So, Busanga, you alluded to it's like the Okavango Delta. It's
Mm.
just a little bit of a smaller scale. It's seasonal. The rains come further north, I think, months beforehand, and then the water flows down and it fills up. And it's not like it's hundreds of feet deep, right? It's the red lechwe are walking through the water,
That's
right?
right.
It's a foot,
They're wading through.
2 foot
Yeah.
deep.
Yeah, it varies in places. The Busanga Plains, it's believed it's an ancient lake bed, which is why the
Hmm.
water sits in the Busanga Plains. Unlike the delta, the Okavango Delta, which is a delta where the river sort of empties into, um, the Busanga Plains is part of the Lufupa River. So there's a river above it and there's a river beneath it. But there's this sort of lower lying bowl that it hits.
Ah,
And that's why you have the Busanga Plains. And that's why it's seasonal, because the water sits in this bowl until it drains out enough in around May, June to allow us to come in and allow our tourists, our guests, to come and see this very, very unique place. Yeah.
all right. Um, and further south, you've got a
Hmm.
camp called Musakessi, which I've been lucky enough to visit. And I learned a new word at Musakessi, the
Right.
Dambo. I did not know about this feature.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And not only did I learn about it, but it was a boon for wildlife viewing. Explain what
Hmm.
a Dambo is.
Yeah, a Dambo is a very Zambian word, right? So in other places, like in South Africa, I think they call it a flay. I forget where else. Maybe in East Africa they call them dongas, but basically they are floodplains, but on a smaller scale. So whereas Busanga is a 600 kilometers of vast swamplands with trees and islands, Dambos are a smaller scale. They can be sort of a kilometer long or a few hundred meters wide, and the scientific term is that they're seasonally inundated depressions, and I think they're typified with soils that are slightly alkaline. But anyway, that's maybe a bit too
Look at that
technical.
little science coming at you. Be
Yeah.
careful, listeners.
But a Dambo, yeah, in a typically wooded environment, which in the reality, most of our part of Africa actually is. The perception that all Africa, wild areas, are open plains is not quite the case, which is why Busanga is quite cool, because it is the sort of classic look. But in the more wooded parts of Kafue, we have these clearings, these openings. Very often they are oxbows. They're where the former, the rivers would have flowed once upon a time, and they're still these open areas. But because they hold water a little bit longer, the grazing is a little bit better, a little bit later in the dry season, and that brings in a lot of wildlife at the times of year when grazing is tough to get. And when you get a lot of sort of game animals, of course, with that comes the predators. And you spoke about Musakessi camp specifically, Jason, where you came to visit us few years back now. Yeah, the camp, as you know, is on one of the largest Dambos in the Kafue, and it's actually nicknamed the Eden Lagoon or the Eden Dambo because it is so full of and so game dense at the end of the dry season that it literally, when we first came across it, we're like, wow, it looks like a Garden of Eden. So yeah.
I want to tell a quick story about my visit at Musakessi, but before that, I'm going to remind our listeners, if you have any questions or comments for me or Ty, email us at travelshow@adventurelife.com. If I don't know the answers, I'm going to reach out to Ty and get the real answers for you, especially those science questions like he was talking about. That I will definitely be asking Ty. So that's travelshow@adventurelife.com. If you're on YouTube, just throw a comment down here below and we'll get to those as well. When my vehicle pulled up to Musakessi camp, as is typical, there's someone there to greet you. This was a little different. He's holding up both hands and he's telling us, please stay in the vehicle, which is not the normal thing. You've been on a flight. You then have been on a vehicle. I had to get on a boat to cross the Kafue River to get on another vehicle to drive to camp. And he's like, stay in the vehicle. Normally they're like, come on in, have a welcome drink, cool off, relax. We'll get you all set up. And I'm like, what's going on? Well, we have an elephant in camp. So we don't want anybody, we got to wait for him to leave.
And he was in camp, like
literally in camp. Like by the time you let us get to the main part of the lodge, you're like, over there are the public restrooms. We can't get over there because the elephant's still in that part of the camp.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, it's animal rich. The deck and the dinner area looked over the Dambo, and every night somebody spotted some animal on the Dambo.
The lions come past. These Dambo areas are really, really cool. And most of your safari camps, especially in Zambia, are on the river. And that's lovely too. You're looking at the water, but what makes Musakessi in this part of Kafue unique is that this camp is looking at, as you said, you're looking at the bush, you're looking at that in a very open landscape. So if you're the kind of person that's always keen with your binos, your camera always by your side, your typical safari activities in the morning and afternoon are elongated because you've got the whole rest of the day when you're in camp to be game view because you're looking at it all from your room. It never stops.
The tents at Musakessi, their shape is a little different. They're more elongated front facing. They're really nice, by the way. They're not, this is not a bush camp. It's got, showers and toilets all inside, but it's front facing. They're elongated. So you've got this nice, they're facing the Dambo. They've got a little deck. And like the first morning, I believe, I come to and I've got various types of antelope within, 10 feet of me. I'm looking at them and, I ease outside I've got a cup of coffee that I've made in the thing to ease outside, and they just slowly move a little past. And I was just like, they're just that close, grazing, wandering. And I was just like, this is how you start your morning. Mm-hmm. It's very lovely.
That's it. Yep. Yeah, that's a key point, Jason. Again, just on sort of the different types of camps and like experiences, we're very lucky that our camps, I say lucky, we worked hard to have our camps where they are. It wasn't by luck, but they are in the middle of the core wildlife areas of the parks we operate in. So you're not having to kind of travel to the gate into the park or travel for an hour or two to get to the best game viewing area. You are in it. it's 24 hours a day. There could be a leopard under your deck. There could be a lion walking past the bathroom, because you are in it already, and that's a key. And not all camps are, but we are very lucky that ours certainly are. Yeah,
That's one of the things that I try and tell my clients. I'm like, when we're looking for lodges, there's several factors. One of the ones you don't know about. You may want this amenity or that amenity, this type of bedding or whatnot. I'm also considering the location of the
yeah,
camp. It makes a difference in your experience.
yeah.
I think this goes back to how you view the
What do you
animals,
say? Yeah,
right? If you have to get up and there's nothing around and have your breakfast and then drive for an hour before you get to any game-rich areas,
hmm
that's, you have to either get up extra early or you've lost some valuable game viewing time.
exactly. And that's not what it's about. Yeah.
I want to do a quick pivot because we're talking about Musakessi.
hmm
Um, there's also an organization called the Musekese Conservation, which I believe is on your shirt.
Yes, that's
Uh,
good spot. Yeah.
I want you to tell us about it and what it's done.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for doing that. As said just a minute ago, so myself and my colleague Phil, who are two of the four owners of Classic Zambia, we started our camp that we've just been speaking about on the Dambo at Musakessi 14, 15 years ago now. And it was an amazing adventure to get that camp set up because it was in such a remote part of the Kafue. But ultimately, after a few years of operating quite successfully, in our own very small scale, poaching increased in this area we were operating. We were caught unawares. We had a horrific sort of spate of 6 months of snaring, wire noose snaring, that was Phil and I alone in that pre-season found 7 different lions dead in snares in the year 2017. That's just the lions, right? And that's just 2 blokes in a massive area. We were finding elephants were getting poached. The point is that poaching just went through the roof for various reasons, and that, yeah. As a consequence, Phil and I had a bit of a reality check. It's like, cool, well, whilst we're conservation biologists and all that, we'd been in the tourism side of things. But here was this situation that we morally, ethically were like, we need to kind of see what we can do about this situation. And we, of course, approached the government, anti-poaching teams for the Department of Parks. Guys, can you put some patrol teams in this area? Because this is happening it's terrific, right? And the government doesn't and didn't have the means to, equip scouts or even have scouts to go and do these patrols. So then we went to an NGO that was working in the park at the time and said, guys, can you put some patrols in this area? It's far away from when they're operating. And Phil and I looked at I think we'd managed, I could be open here. I think we'd managed to make about 20 grand or maybe 30 grand from our safari company. Just 2 young lads, couple years plugging away. And we're like, shit, well, we need to do something. So we said to this NGO, look, we got 30 grand. Please, we'll donate it to you. We need to pick up snares. We need to put some presence in this area because we won't have anything left if we don't. They sadly said, no, we don't have the means either. Long story short, we were left with the only other option, and that was to go and incorporate our own conservation nonprofit so that we could legally deal with the conservation side of things rather than the for-profit safari company. So we quickly incorporated Musekese Conservation because the poaching was happening around the Musakesi camp from that's where the name came from. And we spoke to the Department of Parks, and we were given the opportunity to pay for the training of an intake of anti-poaching officers that were going to be seconded to our project that was sort of being set up. We needed to build them accommodation. So with our 30 grand, we were all in all of a sudden. We signed a quick sort of MOU with the government for this NGO and we started. And 6 months later, or maybe I think it was 3 months later, we had the first 6 scouts seconded to our project. All of a sudden, they were there. We now had to be an anti-poaching operation and a safari company. But what that amazingly has grown into is something far more than Phil and I could have ever dreamed. And in the coming years, the collection of snares, the presence in the area, that Musakesi area flourished. and poachers moved out. And on the back of that sort of anti-poaching, we even managed to set up a research sort of arm to Musekese Conservation. So we were studying the recovery of wildlife on the back of the anti-poaching efforts. We were keen to make sure
There's
that
your
we
science
weren't just
background coming in.
That's the science background. It's also the fun side of it. But we were keen to make sure that our money was actually the money that we were putting into anti-poaching. The net result was actually more wildlife, because that's fundamentally, we didn't want to be an NGO for the sake of being an NGO. We didn't want to do it in the first place, but we kind of had to. So anyway, that's 2017, 2018, 2019, and here we are in 2024. And Musakessi Conservation to this day employs over 135 people, and it is in charge of the protection of 14,000 square kilometers of wild area around the Kafue National. 14,000 square kilometers is the size of Connecticut. And our little organization that was funded and founded off the back of the few tourist dollars that we'd managed to sequester those couple of years of operation, today is still fully linked to our tourism side. But of course, a business that, an organization the size of Musekese Conservation has slightly broader shoulders now. But we're very proud that we're the kind of people, and Classic Zambia is the kind of company where the flow of money is very clear and very evident to a net result of conservation outcomes. This isn't some kind of wishy-washy, corporation covering greenwashing. Very clear to see, and we're very proud and very open to discuss. And the guests, from you would have seen it, Jason. I think you did. You head down and you visited.
I did visit.
Teams, right?
I did visit the area.
Yeah, from a guest perspective, you're able to go and interact with the research teams, see how the wildlife's rebounded, see what a snare looks like, look at the camera trap work. It's really, really a cool addition. Yeah.
Yeah, a couple of things on that. One, most people, when they hear poaching, think of people going and killing an elephant for ivory or a rhino for the horn. The vast majority of poaching is snares. It's locals or semi-locals going in, setting snares, trying to get bushmeat.
Absolutely.
And that snare is indiscriminate, right?
100%.
That's the problem.
Yeah, exactly. And
it's going 7 lions in 2017. That's a massive hit to the lion population.
Huge.
It could do leopard. It could hurt. If an elephant gets its trunk in one of those, and an elephant without a trunk is going to have a slow, painful death, right?
You're right, Jason. Yeah, I realized I didn't really clarify that those lions, that they're not the target of these poachers. You're quite right. And I kind of half jest to folk when I'm around a campfire.
That's okay. This is your world. You're used to it. I just want our listeners to understand that, I don't know what percentage, but the vast majority of it are these people going in, setting snares, hoping to catch some bushmeat, but because snares are going to hurt other animals they don't want.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're spot on. And that's why old-fashioned anti-poaching, let me say, boots on the ground, guys picking up snares. There's only infinite sort of drainage channels that people can put the wire snares onto. And that's why that's very effective, and why we were very effective very quickly, because we covered a lot of ground, picked up a lot of snares, hundreds, thousands of snares. And so, that's why that old-fashioned approach. And nowadays, there's many of these larger, fancier organizations, use helicopters and drones and all kinds, which is important. But they're more for the ivory guys, right? They can't see 10 snares wrapped around a tree, So I'm just saying that because that's something not to lose sight of.
When I visited, they actually showed me, here's a snare, here's how we handle it, right? This is, they had, and I visited and I got to see both the researchers and there was, I'm going to say jungle gym, which is, people think playground, but this was an area for the rangers and the staff to work out, people that go on patrol, to stay in shape, because they're going to be out there. Don't they go out on patrol for
it can
a
be
long time?
Can be up to 20 days. I mean, typically nowadays it's slightly shorter, more impactful, but you're right. They need to be fit and strong, and they are fit and strong and mentally tough. And
Oh yeah. I saw one guy who I was like, oh dude, you're serious about this stuff.
Yeah.
But besides them, you know, just their presence deters people, but then removing the snares as well. Now your researchers, they started off tracking all the predators, tracking the lion prides, the wild dog
Yes.
packs, the leopards, which, by the way, I'm very proud. One of the pictures I took of one of the leopards, you
Yes.
used a little citizen science. You helped me. I got
Yep.
the profile, and what is it? The whisker pattern?
Whisker on the lions, certainly the whisker spot patterns, because they don't have the rosettes like a leopard has to ID, so a little bit tougher. So yeah, whisker spot patterns on the lions, but your leopards, it's those rosettes typically. Still a bit of whisker stuff, but typically it's spots over the eyes. And yeah, the researchers will find little cubes that you compare one to the other and make sure you're looking at the right individual or not. Yeah.
I got lucky. I got a good shot in between some of the brush of a leopard on I believe it was an anthill. And you're like, we're going to send that in so they note down the time, the date, the location, and such.
Yeah.
But you've expanded because after you've had established that you've got some biologists working for you, tracking those predators, you also were like, hey, they need food. We also need to track
Exactly.
the prey.
100%. Yeah. The predators are obviously the more charismatic species. They're also an indicator of the general health of an area, right? So although you might perceptively be thinking, oh, they're just following those because they like lions. Well, the amount of lions in a given area is pretty indicative of the health of that area. But yeah, likewise, you're quite right. We don't just sort of follow lines. Right? There's a whole load aside, and please do follow Musakese Conservation on social media and online and stuff. But yeah, the ungulates.
If
the
you want to
prey
make
animals.
a plug for that, go ahead. That's a great organization that people should follow. Is it
Absolutely.
on Instagram? Is it what's it on?
Yeah, I mean, even just the website Musakese Conservation, but it is also on Instagram. The annual reports have just been made available as well. So feel free to read up on that. It's very enlightening. We're talking about kind of tough things, but it's very uplifting. It's a great.
If anybody
project.
can find it, email me, travelshow@adventurelife.com, and I'll send it to you.
Yeah. So we also been studying the antelope. Yeah, because that's the more antelope you have in your ecosystem, the more predators that you can sustain. And why do you have more antelope, or what might allow more antelope? A lack of poaching, hammering them. The snaring is one thing, but also fire, ecology, grazing, and that's a whole load of stuff that we're also doing alongside the predator stuff. Less jazzy and exciting, but for people that are interested, it's all happening as well. Yeah.
But it's important, right?
It's important.
For your average safari goer who's not thinking about this, it's important that you're doing this so when they show up and go to Kafue, Lower Zambezi, Luangwa Valley, if these efforts haven't been made, they're going to have a less successful visit. They're not going to see as many animals.
And I think, honestly, if I can sort of be a bit thingy here, I think it also showcases the kind of people that we are, specifically, that
100%.
We're a safari company, but I mean, you're hopefully picking up, and Jason, that we're wildlife people. We're wildlife people that try and do business, that try and do safaris and try and show our passion and knowledge of these very cool areas to our guests, rather than the other way around of having business people trying to make this a niche to make them more business people. You know what I mean? So that's we're proud of that. We're proud that us as owners, we're 4 professional guides and we're 2 biologists. We're very proud of that. Yeah.
One of our earlier conversations, a year, 2, 3 back, you said something to me and it has stuck with me because you were an owner operated lodge group, right? There's just a handful of you that own this. It's not a corporation. You were talking with me about this and you said, I could have a bigger house. We could have a bigger house. We put that money back into not fancier lodges, but making sure the areas the lodges are in are protected, such as with Musakese Conservation.
Yeah.
In Lower Zambezi, there's a group area, a network that is working.
That's right. Conservation Lower Zambezi. We also support those. Yeah, exactly. It's very important to us. Yeah. And it isn't always the case, right? There's companies and organizations, a lot bigger than us that we punch above our weight, but it's not about, well, it is about that for us, but I'm just saying we're just very proud of that. Yeah. And it's not just in the Kafue context. Yeah. It's across, even in North Luangwa now, Jason, we're working. One of the reasons we are the only new camp in North Luangwa for the last 20 years is because we've been accepted into that park, and North Luangwa is run by Frankfurt Zoological Society, one of the world's leading conservation and sort of protected area management authorities.
Yes, they're fantastic.
Fantastic, FZS. And so they didn't want to partner with any Tom, Dick, and Harry, right? And because of our conservation credentials, we were the guys that they said, right, you'll be the first guys in the last 20 years to be allowed access to this area. And our camp is in the middle of their rhino reintroduction area. And so as a consequence, we have this unique opportunity from the guest perspective, from the tourist perspective, to have access to this area because of the conservation sort of outlook and ethos that we have. So yeah, it's actually helped us in business to be so clear in our ethics in the conservation sphere. Yeah.
Yeah. It's helped you multiple ways. The new camp, Kutandala camp.
Kutandala.
Am I saying that right?
Yeah. Perfect.
It helped you all get that camp, but it's helped you know that when people show up to these camps, the efforts you've made, they're going to have a fantastic time. They're going to see some incredible stuff.
Absolutely.
It's just who y'all are. I've gotten to meet two of the managers in Lower Zambezi. Kyle tried to drown me in the river.
I don't believe it.
He insisted I take the canoeing trip along the Discovery Channel.
Yeah.
Where there were, I don't know, 130, 140 hippos we had to pass. At one point, he's had to get out of the canoe, and he's walking and pulling the canoe. And he's slapping the water with the paddle, and I'm just sitting in the canoe going, why am I doing this? Why did I choose this job? But I was having a blast. But I was glad Kyle was the one in the water, not me, because he knows what he's doing.
Exactly.
I did not.
Mm-hmm.
As you can see, it was a fantastic experience. But
yeah,
something like that, knowing you're with somebody that is very knowledgeable, and not just Kyle. We had the safety canoe with the two guides.
Right.
And when Kyle would do whatever you do to make the lone bull hippo, who's kind of guarding its territory when we come around the corner, and if they finally like, okay, I give up, I got to give space, and we go past. We came around one, and this one just didn't want to give up. And so Kyle kind of looked back to the two safety, to the guides in the safety canoe, who they know all these animals, right? And they're like, yeah, he's stubborn. We came around a little, you came around a little too shallow and got too close. He's not moving. We have to go around him. The knowledge that they had, and God's like, all right, we're going to go around him. I'm trusting these guys. They know their stuff.
Right.
And I'm like, all right, I'm just going to sit here and hope he stays over there.
Absolutely. You touched on
a fantastic experience. But again, why are all those animals there in the Lower Zambezi? Because of the conservation efforts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? That y'all have participated in and helped out.
Yeah.
But I want to hear more. We'll come back to Lower Zambezi. I want to hear more about the North Luangwa, the Kutandala camp, since it's new.
Yeah.
You had a soft opening in 2025. You just had a small amount, and we're about to be full opening in 2026.
That's exactly it. Jason, like, I've given a few talks and things recently on North Luangwa specifically. And we have been blown away by how cool the area is and the camp is. And look, we as owners, we've been up there the last few years trying to get the thing going, and these things take years in this part of the world, in Africa, to get your paperwork in order and stuff. And that's been a fun couple years exploring by ourselves. As you say, we managed to open on a kind of soft opening basis in September. We had 10 bookings. And we were absolutely blown away by the quality of wildlife here. We knew that the wilderness, the conservation, everything that comes with North Luangwa was going to be cool and unique. And that's why we did everything we could to be up there. We were not sort of so prepared for the density of wildlife, the density of predator sightings, quality of sightings. Around every corner was 30 zebra, herd of eland, 100, 400 buffalo here. Like the South Luangwa is the better known Luangwa Park, right? South Luangwa, you got the BBC Kingdoms has just been released. I think it's coming out in the States this weekend. Hugely
and a host
amazing.
of camps all up and down.
Great park, South Luangwa. We're in North Luangwa. We are one of 2 camps. South Luangwa's got maybe 30 camps, yeah?
At least.
Somewhere there, at least.
Yeah.
So wilderness we have up there. And it's been just a little bit harder to get to historically, but because of the conservation being very kind of secure, one of the reasons there hasn't been much tourism. So as I said, we felt lucky to be up there. We knew we'd have the wilderness to ourselves because it's one of the most wild places left in Africa. We knew we had the conservation stuff was intriguing. I think I spoke a little bit just when we started about, or maybe not, about the rhino being the only place in Zambia with wild black rhino. And our camp being in the middle of that rhino release area. All these things were cool. But when the guests came, and we were told by Frankfurt, we said, guys, we know you're in the rhino area. You'll see the signs of rhino, but you're not really going to see them. They're black rhino, typically nocturnal. We hardly see them.
For our guests, black rhino are a little more skittish than the white rhino.
That's right. More
so
secretive, bit more nocturnal. Our 10 guests we had 6 different sightings of rhino. Now, just that alone, we thought we might see one a year, maybe somewhere, if we're lucky. In our 2 months, 10 bookings, 6 sightings. And it's not, and I would say don't book rhino safaris in North Luangwa. But the point is that the game viewing experience was so much more mature than we thought it would be. It's kind of everything the South Luangwa is known for, but without any people. And that's very exciting.
With 2 camps, there's no people.
2 camps. The place is 6,000 square kilometers. It's vast.
And the other camp is a walking only camp, correct?
That's right. Yeah. So our neighbors, Mwaleshi camp.
Yours is traditional game drives.
Yeah. So guys down the river there, walking only, and proudly walking only. We love to walk.
Exactly. Nothing wrong with walking.
What? Lovely. It's a fantastic way. And when we say walking, as you know, Jason, it's not necessarily blistering hikes with your hiking boots, just a pair of trainers and a good attitude. And, let's go and see what we can find. But we have the game drives. And that's never been the case in North Luangwa. So it's a far more rounded, sort of typical safari experience where we might go for an afternoon game drive, bit of a night drive back, morning walk. But where we are as well in North Luangwa, different to South Luangwa and also different to your typical safaris in the rest of Africa, we've got these waterfalls up in the hills, and we can go, and we've got pools that we know that are safe, free from crocodiles. We go up there, we take a morning walk up there, take the bathing suits, go for a swim, have a picnic, drive back to camp. It's a far more kind of diverse wilderness experience than one is expecting. Even the river itself, the Mwaleshi River that Kutandala is on, is only like this deep in September, October. We can swim in the river. There's no hippos, there's no crocodiles. It's crystal clear, sandy river. Where else are you able to get, when you're a bit hot in your tent, have a dip down in the river with a gin and tonic whilst being in one of the most wild places in Africa, And honestly, it's so exciting. And you could probably pick up my excitement on behalf of
I can. I'm kind of shocked because I have to give, potential clients, here's, you have to listen to at each camp, the safety briefing about not going here, not doing this. You're telling me, I've just talked about how, I was a little scared in the canoeing thing because I knew there were crocodiles in the water. There's hippos out there. And you're just telling me, bring your swimsuit. We're going to go swim in waterfalls and things like that.
Exactly. And I'm not sugarcoating it. I will say though, obviously it's always with one of us present,
sure.
It's still the bush, but no, absolutely. Like it's such a hard thing to get your head around how unique North Luangwa is. And that variety of experience is something we knew we would offer. We didn't know that would be on the back of also seeing lions every day. We saw 3 different packs of wild dogs out of the camp. North Luangwa,
3 packs.
They're unstudied. no one really knows who. We were taking pictures for Frankfurt. Like they don't really know. They're busy doing their community work, and so anyway, it's really special. Zambia is
Wow.
so special, and places like Kafue, places like Lower Zam for the canoeing, places like North Luangwa have got such a lot to offer. Yeah, yeah,
Well, let's talk about the different activities since we
yeah.
just talked about walking.
Mm.
Game drives,
Mm-hmm,
walking safaris.
Yeah.
I know in some places you go by boat, like on the Kafue River or the Zambezi River,
Yep.
where you could do things. And then canoeing. I know you could canoe on the Lower Zambezi and the Discovery
Yes.
Channel.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about the different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just explain
Absolutely.
them,
No,
describe them so people have an idea.
Jason, it's a really good idea to bring up the variety of activities again in Zambia specifically. You know, on safari, in your sort of more typical East African Kruger type safaris, you're in a vehicle. That's what you're in. You know, and that's lovely. And a vehicle game drive is the best way to get as close to the wildlife as possible because they're habituated to it. And if you like the photography, you're going to be in the vehicle most of the time. But I can assure you that after a week of safari or even a few days of safari, the ability to get on a boat where you're not bouncing around anymore and you're at eye level with a cool gin and tonic, feet up on the Zambezi River with buffalo there and elephants there, the water element is what I'm saying. Like the Zambezi, specifically the Lower Zambezi, and as you said at Kafue at Musakessi, the ability to not only do land activities, so vehicles and walks, but combined with motorboat activity. And these are big boats, you know, not massive boats, small, six, 9 people max, you know, typically 3 or 4 people, stable. Yeah, the ability to change it up, you know, to not have to bounce around, to do something a little bit different on a hot day makes all the difference. And the big kicker aside to the boating with the game drives and the walks, like you said, is the canoeing. You spoke a little bit about your experience on the Discovery Channel, Jason. But honestly, for me, a canoe safari in the Lower Zambezi is the finest safari activity on offer in Southern Africa. It is so unique. It is only available with us. You can do it in Zimbabwe or at Mana Pools, but they don't have the channels that you spoke about, the Discovery Channel. They got the main river.
They're more on the main part of the river.
Sure. We also canoe the main river sometimes too, but the main river canoeing is kind of a bit more adrenaline. It's fast. It's big river. It's big pods of hippo, big crocs. Yeah.
But on the Discovery Channel, when I went, I talked about the things that scared me. We came around, there was a huge bull elephant right at the edge of the water, doing its thing, looked over at us like, and we just silently glided past this massive creature who, it was just majestic. And 2 turns later, we come around and there's a small herd of Liechtenstein's hartebeest, which I had never seen up until elephant. Bam. And why did I get to see him? Because I'm in the canoe.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
And
no, exactly.
Gorgeous.
People don't realize how good a game viewing activity the canoeing in the Lower Zambezi is as well. So some people might think, it's maybe like a thing to do on my last day, and it's not. We always say, do it on your first day, because if you love it, do it again. You know, you'll be kicking yourself if you do it on your last day. And the canoe is the one activity, Jason, like a canoe safari. There's 2 things to it I wanted to just sort of recap or remind ourselves on. In terms of the safety aspect, right? The highest qualification for a guide in Zambia, and Zambia as a country is very proud of its high guiding standards and apprenticeship. It takes a minimum of 7 years of apprenticeships to even be able to sit your exam for the canoe guiding specifically. These are the canoes, when you go on a canoe, those guys, the Kyles, our other top canoe guides that we have as a company are the best guides in the country. So from a safety perspective, like you said, you need to be, because you don't have a motor to get you out of a situation, but you're in the safest hands. And so one mustn't fear that aspect of it. Second to that is it's the one activity that I've seen the most emotion from guests after. People in tears of enjoyment, almost unable to explain the serenity of what they've just experienced. And it's often people that half didn't even really know that they could do a canoe. Yeah, they didn't even know it existed, or they did know but didn't really know what to expect. And you do an afternoon canoe on somewhere like the Kafue Channel or the Discovery Channel, and you've just taken to a place that you is incomparable. And yeah, that's the one activity I've seen the most positive emotion from guests on the back
It
of. Yeah.
it was really special, and like, I was hesitant a little bit. I'm like,
Sure.
it's going to be hot. You're going to give me a paddle. No, I had a nice wide brimmed hat like everybody needs to have.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't.
Don't have to
Guests don't
paddle.
paddle.
Yeah.
You get to sit back and you get to watch and enjoy and experience all of this. And, you are low, close to the water.
Yeah.
And the only thing you hear is nature and ever so often the sound of the paddle. It was pretty magical.
Yeah.
The
it's
bonus,
nice. Yeah.
The bonus was we did an afternoon, ended with a sundowner. And then we had a night drive back to camp, nice and slow, where we spotted some amazing things with the spotlight going back. The funniest was we've stopped and we are got a spotlight. There's a leopard easing up on a herd of impala. We're like, oh, we're going to watch this. We're watching, we're being quiet and patient. And after about 5 minutes, one of the two safety guides who's sitting in the very back, he's like, guys, do y'all care about the lion that's right here behind the vehicle who's watching the leopard hoping to get a free meal? It was actually a lioness. And we were like, oh, hey, how you doing?
That's it. So your canoe and your sundowner turned into an epic night drive and a continuation into a camp that itself's probably full of game as well. So it's immersive.
Eventually they were like, the leopard doesn't look like he's going to make his move.
Mm-hmm.
If he does, we'll know. And we're like, how will we know? He said, we're going to go on back for dinner. Like, how will we know? We're like, camp's literally 300 meters away.
Yeah.
We're right there. I'm like, oh, what?
Yeah.
Because I didn't know. I couldn't see the camp.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, so that's the variety of activity, Jay. I think, and it's not available everywhere in Africa, So that's another big plus for Zambia is that the water-based activity, and we do that all year. We canoe all year, same as in the Kafue, that boating, and along with the walks, along with the drives, it's a really nice rounded safari. You go home thinking, shit, we did so many different things, rather than going back saying we had a great time, but it was kind of vehicle-based. I wish we could have got out a bit more. Whatever. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Every so often I have somebody that's like going, I won't be able to sit in the vehicle though. I need to be able to move them. Going, okay, there are some options for you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the walking, I've done a lot of walking safaris and they're great. You just don't know what you can get out and you can see the tiny things. Mm-hmm. You can enjoy the plants, the trees, the tracks, dung, as well as you come around and like, oh, look, elephants. Oof. We're not going to get too close, but look, you're on the ground with elephants.
That's it. Heart rate goes up a bit. Yeah, it's quite exciting. I think for me, a walking safari is the most humbling safari. I think you all of a sudden, as soon as you walk out the camp or walk away from your vehicle, you feel this big now, and you're like, okay. And it's very rare in our lives. And I think it's a big important thing about travel nowadays, why we travel, why someone should travel. It's very rare you feel this big in anyone's life. We all live a life of, where we live or a relative grandeur and safety. A walking safari and the ability to be humbled by nature is a somewhat addictive and very rare experience. And I think it's another part. Safari is so much more than just the animal. It's so much more than just that.
It really is. Yeah. It's the experience of what's around you. That's not just animals. It's the guides, getting to meet them and talk with them, and just interacting and learning about them. I've had experience with several of your fantastic guides. At one time, I went out at Lower Zambezi. Mm-hmm. I want to say it was at Kutale, and my guide was a trainee. He was 26 or 27. This was in the fall. This was our fall, so October, November.
Yeah.
He said he was taking his exam in April. Mm-hmm. And I believe his name was Josh. Oh, my. He was phenomenal as a trainee. The amount of things he could spot. Like, we were at least a kilometer. We were in a vehicle and he stops and he's looking. He's got the binoculars. He moves the vehicle back about 5 feet, puts the binoculars up. So I'm staring at this tree or this other tree that's close by. And he's like, there's a leopard. I'm like, wow. And I'm looking in the tree. I'm looking in the tree. And I'm like, where? He goes, oh, not that one. Way over there. A kilometer away. It took us a good 15 minutes of bouncing and easing over rough terrain to pull up underneath this tree to see this gorgeous, about 4-year-old male leopard just kind of lounging. The most beautiful creature. And I'm just like, Josh, how did you spot this? And he's like, that's my job.
Yeah. Well, that's Josh, and that's also part of the apprenticeship thing. As I said, it's not easy to be a guide in Zambia. And Josh, funnily enough, just won an award this year in the whole of the Lower Zambezi. He's now a fully qualified walking guide. So we're very proud that we have taken Josh from who was a casual laborer when we first started, now to get his highest qualification all these years later. So we're very proud of Josh. But it doesn't surprise us. But that also, is testament to Zambia, to Zambian guides, and you know what? And also the
it's also
importance.
It's a testament to y'all for hiring and training local, right?
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yes, it's something we're very proud of as well. Yeah.
You can run across plenty of camps that don't do that. We're just going to bring in people that know what they're doing instead of,
sure,
we're going to take these people, we're going to show them what we need, teach them how to do it. Yeah. Not all of them are going to be successful. So you got to find another trainer. But the staff at all your camps were fantastic that I've had encounters with. Staff, guides, the whole works.
Thank you. Yeah, we're very proud. We're very proud that we are a Zambian company, right? We are not a big company with entities all over the place. We are here for Zambia. I'm very conscious of the fact, me as a person, I'm not, right. I'm from the UK originally, and I'm the outlier though. We employ over 100 staff, and I'm the only non-African in our whole company. So it's something
Why am I talking to you? I'm talking to one of them. I get you. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Only because I started the thing, but otherwise I got nothing to do with it. But no, we are very proud. If we take a step back, it is very important to us, and because we are owner-run, because we are here in Zambia, we're bona fide. My colleagues are all grown up here. Our senior staff are all Zambians. It is important to us to have a legacy and not just be the kind of place that hires and fires and brings in, people to fill gaps. It's a legacy thing, right? We've got nowhere else to be. I'm here. This is my home in Lusaka. We've chatted about the conservation stuff. We put our life's work into. That's us.
Yeah, mm-hmm. Your life's work is going to make a difference, and it's going to keep going and going and going.
We hope so.
Well, I think we've covered a lot. Anything else you would like to talk about, or should we start wrapping things up?
Yeah, no, I mean, we definitely covered a lot. It's been a really nice chat, Jason. Thank you, firstly. Nice to sort of
My pleasure.
Delve into some stuff I haven't thought about for a little while, and some of the nuances.
I made you think.
You made me think. Yeah, made me think outside the box.
End of your day, beginning of mine, I made him think. There you go. I had coffee to help me along, so sorry.
I'm going to have a beer to help me unwind now because I'm going to be all jazzed. But
there you go.
Yeah, no, hopefully we inspired a little bit and let people know Zambia exists, and
Zambia does exist. We're going to give our listeners a bit of a trivia question. All right. If you know the answer, don't shout it out, because I want people to email us at travelshow@adventurelife.com, or they want to spoil it, put it in the comments here of the YouTube channel. I want them to tell me everything they know about the Congo pedicle, because it affects Zambia quite a bit. It's why your country is shaped like it is. And I'll just give a little hint. It's those crazy colonial powers, right? We've done away with them, and now we're focused on fantastic wildlife experiences and conservation efforts. So, what I love about Ty's story is how it reminds us that every trip has a ripple effect for travelers, for communities, and for the planet. Thanks again to Tyrone McKeith and their team at Classic Zambia for showing us how adventure travel can truly make a difference on the ground. Now, I want everybody to think about where they want to go and then get out there and go.